Three, two, one. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Today's 2025 TV hits or misses. And we're going to start off with a miss. Unfortunately, Brian's internet is down. Wait, I think I have a special effect for that. Is it this one? No. That wasn't it. So Brian's going to try to jump in. And when he comes in, then boom, we can have him on and talk about this year's hit and misses for TVs and anything related to TVs, right? I'll take your contributions and so forth in terms of if you have a comment, whether I missed the TV or not. I'm going to try to list all the popular models from all the brands, and we'll talk about whether it's a hit or a miss, and then we'll take it from there. And of course, if you guys have models that I didn't mention and you want to know, hey, what are my thoughts about it, whether you're planning to buy it, just put it in chat. And of course, it doesn't have to be 2025 models. It could be future 2026 prospective models or 2024 and prior models. All right, how's everyone today? And Bomo forgot to pay his internet bill. You know, there's something happening in Connecticut today. You know, who knows, right? But hi, everyone. Hey, Eric Baker. Thank you for coming. Regulars, you all. Oh, Scott, haven't seen you in a while. You lost 110 pounds, Scott. I wouldn't even recognize you, right? So you're disappearing in front of my eyes. Hey, Matt, Bev, welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome, everyone. Jay and Nigel. Yes. So, I'm going to start with Panasonic because there's a lot of news to talk about today. So I want to go through all the brands and everything. And as others jump in, you know, we're going to start with a small brand, right? Panasonic, and we're going to list the TVs that I think many of you find very relevant. The Z95B. This is Panasonic's flagship OLED TV. It is their best TV. It is the primary RGB tandem OLED TV. Definitely, this is a hit for many reasons. I mean, no TV is perfect. So we'll talk about what is a little bit missing in this TV, but overall, image quality, it's a hit. Out of the box, super accurate. It does primary tandem RGB OLED better than LG. To me, that's a huge win for Panasonic. Now, the only miss is, what if they had QD-OLED? What could they have done with that? And maybe there's a reason why they don't have QD-OLED. Ending EU distribution model. So without jumping off of Z95B too quickly, the only miss really I think is the Fire OS. Many of you don't like it. Yeah, it's not as snappy. It could be better. But I think these are red flags that lead to ending the EU distribution model. Now, this is quote unquote distribution model. What does this really mean? I think, and this is Panasonic hasn't gone into detail, but they are not making money the way it is right now. Traditional retailing, the margins aren't there. They're not selling enough TVs, and whether it's selling direct as a distribution model or just selling the Panasonic name, relicensing, like in a few years past in the USA, Sharp licensed the name to Hisense. So many of the Sharp TVs you bought in 2016 were actually Hisense rebadged TVs as Sharp. And Panasonic might consider doing that. Not saying they will, but that's one distribution model. Another one is maybe just sell the flagship, like the Z95B, as their own Panasonic, you know, made, designed, engineered in Japan, and probably made in Mexico, wherever. But then have the cheaper models made by someone else, TCL, Hisense, whoever the contract manufacturer may be. And maybe that'll save them some money. Just relicense that part of their name to the lower end models, but then that calls into question issues about support, warranty, and all of that. So I don't think they'll do a mix and match like that. I think it's all or nothing. And the all or nothing means that they may still be selling Panasonic TVs, but maybe not designed and engineered by Panasonic. So, but we'll see. We have to see what ends up happening in Europe and the USA. So many of you are from the US. What's happening to the USA? Definitely, it's wait and see, because their distribution model here is definitely different than in the EU or UK, right? They're selling through traditional retailers. I don't know what the retailers are there, but the equivalent of Best Buy and the like. Here, they're almost exclusively through Amazon. Now, Robert Zohn Electronics is also a retailer, but they're not going through Best Buy, right? They've chosen Amazon as their mass partner. And I'm hoping that this distribution model in the US, where it's through Amazon and I think Costco last year, I don't know if it's going to go through Costco this year, maybe that will help them move volume. Because at the end of the day, the margins on TVs are so lean, you need the volume to sell and then get that profitability. Because ultimately, Panasonic is thinking, look, we got divisions that make a whole lot more money, battery, electric, EV type batteries, whatever it is, right? Chemicals. And their business to business industrial division makes a lot more money in terms of margins, right? Per dollar cost or whatever it is, it ends up being very profitable. But on the consumer side, it's just limited to TVs. We're talking just general home electronics, appliances, not doing as well. And Panasonic's thinking, so why are we in this business? Remember, LG used to sell smartphones. They're out completely years ago. They said, you know what, we're done with smartphones. As great as it may have been, we cannot make money on it. And it wouldn't surprise me if Panasonic checked out altogether as well. So that's the bad news, right? That's kind of like a miss for all of us. And let's see. Oh, we got a super chat. Hey, Leo, how's it going? Jump on in. I'm so sad for him. Well, Charlie Kirk just got shot and died. So I read a little bit about this on the news. I didn't know exactly what happened, but I guess ultimately passed away. God bless his family and all of us. So yes, thank you for that. Thank you for that super chat, my friend. And anytime, people shouldn't be shot and killed for their opinions. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's unfortunate for sure. And Lax asks, bought a new G3 HDR10 has terrible banding. While Dolby Vision is completely fine, is this just an issue with the G3? Yes. So the G4 definitely improved on that banding. It doesn't eliminate it. And unfortunately, G5 may have brought back some of that banding. I know they're trying to address that, but Dolby Vision is a slightly different format in that it has more data. And sometimes that data fills in the gaps to eliminate banding. And we've noticed this. Dolby Vision does help with banding on the G3, and in the G4, it was fixed for the most part. But Dolby Vision is still slightly better on the G4 than without it. And it has a lot to do with how, I guess, LG is processing low bitrate content. It doesn't do as well as other models from other brands that doesn't introduce banding. It doesn't require Dolby Vision. For example, QD-OLED. If you have QD-OLED technology, you don't need Dolby Vision to fix the banding. Samsung S90D, S90F doesn't have this issue, and it doesn't have Dolby Vision. So, but you're not wrong, Lax. Dolby Vision does help the G3 for sure. All right. If we don't have any questions about the Panasonic, oh yeah, we're gonna, Darius, you're asking about the TCL. Hang on, we are going to talk about TCL for sure, no doubt. We're going to go through all the major models and brands, but I'm sure you're excited about what's coming up. Next up is Sony, and this, there are a couple of misses here, and I think ironically the hit was from 2023. Okay, so let's talk about this. The Bravia 8 Mark II. We'll start with that. Is that a hit or a miss? I guess it depends where you're coming from. For me, the A95L exists. It costs about $500 less right now for the same size 65-inch. The Bravia 8 Mark II, although slightly brighter. So if you need sports content to be brighter in a bright room, or SDR, brighter in a bright room, brighter vivid mode, brighter standard mode, brighter cinema mode, right? The Bravia 8 Mark II is brighter. However, and you saw my earlier videos about content not being that bright anyway, the A95L will look identical to the Bravia 8 Mark II in professional mode, watching normal content, whether it's streaming, the movies you like and love, short of the 3 super bright HDR movies that we all know, Mad Max and Alpha and Pan, right? Short of those movies, they will look the same. And additionally, the A95L appears to have slightly better processing, slightly better accuracy before and after calibration. And this leaves, for me, the Bravia 8 Mark II overall as a miss. Now, because the A95L exists and it's still on sale and it still comes in a 55, 65, and 77-inch, for 99.99% of you, get the A95L. It is their flagship TV. It's got the backlit remote. It's just designed slightly better. The Bravia 8 Mark II the stands are on the far side, so if you have a coffee table that isn't wide enough, it kind of falls off the edge, right? It's kind of silly. So until they discount it significantly, the fact that A95L continues to be a current model, that's a miss for Sony is the Bravia Mark II. It's still a good TV, and it is the king of TVs, right? Apparently the Sony magic is still there, but the A95L being there makes Bravia 8 Mark II a miss. It did not elevate the A95L as much as many had hoped. Bravia 5 for me is a miss, not because it isn't a good TV, but because given the price and the competition and how similar it is to X90L, a lot of you may not want to spend the extra money on the Bravia 5 and just get the X90L. Again, I don't know where Sony's going to price this on Black Friday, but I do like the 98-inch on the Bravia 5. miniLED is slightly brighter than the X90L. Now, the X90L at that size, sometimes in SDR, I do find it, for whatever reason, 98-inch doesn't feel as bright and punchy as the smaller sizes. So I think the Bravia 5 at 98 inches, but technically not a big enough win for me. Maybe what's between hit or miss? Draw, right? So you kind of, not quite a hit, not quite a miss, a foul. So hit, miss, a foul, right? Hit, strikes, and a foul. So the Bravia 5 is not quite there. And Matt and Biff has a good question. Now, every now and then I'll check for questions, my friends. We do listen to the rain on a black screen, and the screen looks like it's turned off, which is the best 98-inch that does this. I see on a black screen, the screen looks like it's turned off. So you don't want a screen that's a mirror. And I hate to say this, but it would be either, it would have to have an anti-glare, so you don't see the mirror. It has to look almost black, right? Slightly raised, but you don't see reflections. That helps. So only the QM6K 98-inch has the anti-glare, or the more expensive version of that would be the 98-inch QNED for $14,000, which is its MSRP. It's probably going to be closer to $10,000 by Black Friday. But QM6K 98-inch, I think it's going to have the deepest, blackest matte screen anti-glare, and I think that should help you. But because that whole black thing, it's lost when it's a reflection of your entire room, right? So I think that's what maybe you're looking for. Here's a good point, since we're still on Sony. Hey, FOMO, thank you, Mac, for that. Sony's next flagship TV might not be called the Bravia 10 and could be called the Bravia 1. He's going back to the beginning. So as you notice, Sony's pattern appeared to have been the higher you go, the better the TV, until you circle back to 1. So Sony uses the number 1 to name the flagships of all its electronic divisions. That is true, the Alpha 1 camera, right? What do you think? I'm thinking maybe the Bravia X, like the letter X for 10 Roman numeral. I think that's one way of doing it. I have no insights, but we know that, or we don't know, but we suspect that the Bravia 9 Mark II will be their flagship mini-LED, unless the better RGB LED is introduced on a different TV, and that could be the Bravia 11, which would be confusing because it might look like a Bravia 2. See, this mix and match of numbers and Roman numerals is very confusing because you have the Bravia 11. It could just be the Bravia 2, right? So Sony, beware of that. Do not call anything the Bravia 11 because it'll look like the Bravia 2, because Bravia 8 Mark II is Bravia 8 II, and if you make it a Bravia 2, but you can't use the number 2 because then it looks like a sucky TV, right? Wait, there is a Bravia 2 already, which is a sucky TV. So Bravia 1. Yeah, maybe we're down to Bravia 1 because God forbid you have a Bravia 13, right? But that's, I like this one. The Bravia FOMO. Thank you for that, Modern Wise. And how much is this in the UK? That, I don't know how much the Q90F in the UK is, but the QM6K should be pretty competitive in the UK. Now, as far as Sony overall this year, I think, this is my opinion, right? No secret insider information from Sony. Overall, this year, I think is a miss for Sony. Overall, because it feels like they kind of mailed in the Bravia 8 Mark II. The Bravia 5 X90L successor, yes, it needed a successor, but that's not a flagship TV. I mean, it's below the Bravia 7, and the A95L continues, and the Bravia 7 continues, and the Bravia 9 continues. So clearly, Sony didn't really expect 2025 to be a big year. 2026 must be a hit for Sony. It has to be, right? They've been planning for 2026. It's obvious now. So I think overall, 2025 was a bit of a disappointment for Sony. And yeah, all right. Next one called the Bravia RGB 8. Oh no, now you have the Bravia 8, which is WOLED, the Bravia 8 Mark II, which is QD-OLED, and the Bravia 8 RGB. Let's not add to that confusion. Well, you know what? I hope they do that just to add to the confusion, right? All right, next up is Hisense. This is going to be a fun one. I think Hisense did really well this year. And these are the TVs. For me, the biggest hit for Hisense this year must be the U7 5QG. And their miss is the U8 QG. And this is why, right? So the U8 is one step above the U7 5, or U7, U8. I don't know why they call it U7 5. I mean, why isn't it called the U8 5? But I guess it's regional differences. So the U7 for 2025 in the USA is called the U7 5QG, aka the U7 for 2025, or the U7Q. That's what they called it at CES. This is one tier below the U8Q. And this is why I think the U7 5QG is a better TV. Brightness nearly identical to the U8, which makes it brighter than TCL's QM7K, nearly as bright as the QM8. More importantly, its color accuracy is better than the U8, its shadow detail is as good as the U8, and it just feels like the U7 5QG is truly the affordable Bravia 9. I mean, it is so close to what the Bravia 9 does. I'm very impressed with it. So for me, and the price, the U7 5QG is very competitively priced. This is so close. I'm like, should I make this the editor's choice or the TCL QM6K? Because the performance of the U5 QG, as far as just HDR, the impact, specular highlights, it's so good. Now, the other hit for me is the UX RGB Mini LED, mostly because now it comes in two sizes, one 16-inch, which you guys saw, and the 98-inch, which was recently announced, and having the smaller, more affordable size. I mean, not that affordable, right? Still over 10,000. But this is a hit for Hisense. First, it brings Hisense notoriety as, wait a minute, was this a cheap Chinese brand just 2 years ago? Or 3, 4 years ago? And now they're literally selling cutting-edge TV technology at a cutting-edge size. No one else is selling that large 116-inch size. Yes, TCL comes close, right? But still, this is RGB Mini LED now, just raising the hardware specs. So definitely a hit for Hisense in terms of reputation, technology, just turning Hisense from a copycat, kind of like an affordable version of Sony or what have you, to a leader. And this, quite amazing. Now, I don't know anyone who's buying the 116 UX or the 98 UX at these prices because we've already seen leaks out of China that Hisense has like a $2,500 85-inch RGB Mini LED already for sale there. And look at the prices, 85-inch RGB Mini LED for $2,500. Are you kidding me? So next year is going to be the year of RGB Mini LED. Just seeing that price, knowing what the cost is for that technology, I can't wait for everyone else to get their hands on that. That's pretty amazing. And Dartman, that's great. You know what? I'm going to go to your Dolby Vision 2 converter. That's a good comment. And Just Frazier. So this is another loss here. A calibrator on AVS has confirmed his Bravia 8 Mark II has already started to lose peak brightness across all window sizes at only 800 hours. That's another miss for Sony. And now, to be honest, I'm hearing this happening on the A95L by some users as well. And I don't know whether it's a statistically limited number or it's just a Sony thing, but I wonder how big that brightness, peak brightness drop is. And I think they're doing it because they're looking at the content. And this is my theory. You guys saw how I said that all this new content, doesn't matter what the content is, of the last 5 years, HDR is not getting brighter, it's getting dimmer, literally. but you definitely don't need a brighter anything. And I suspect Sony is seeing that. And if you take this lower peak brightness Sony and you watch the same content, it will look exactly the same because peak brightness is way lower. The content itself is way lower than the capability of the TV. So Sony's like, wait, if we don't need peak brightness to be so bright because you guys are watching dim content, why is it there? Let's just start lowering it. And unfortunately, people with measurement tools and patterns push the TV to its limit, and now the limit has dropped. So it's kind of like buying a Ferrari for 200 miles an hour, but you never drive it, but you know it's there, and you only drive 80. It's like, wait, this guy only drives his Ferrari 80 miles an hour. No one will notice if we drop it from 200 to 170. You know what? No one will notice if we go from 170 to 150. I mean, at some point, people will notice, but I think that's where we are right now. Okay, yeah, that's, and who else is doing that? So I'd be interested to see if others do this. I mean, speaking of others potentially doing this, I'm hearing similar complaints from the LG G5. I haven't measured anything myself on the G5, but, and the big but is, there are those who are saying that the G5, after a firmware update, has also lost a little bit of peak brightness. So, and it goes back to, again, my theory. If all content is dim, and these TV makers are like, wait, you mean no one's watching anything over 1,000 nits? Then what's the point of pushing these TVs? So that's going to be my narrative of why these firmware updates are lowering the brightness of your TVs, the peak brightness capability, because no one knows, right? Short of enthusiasts on AVS forums and you guys who we talk and share about this, these are the people that know. So let's see what we got here in comments. Hey, Lisa. Hey, everyone. Dartman. Everyone joining. Hey, Classy. And Classy, he could confirm. It's on all Sony OLEDs, and I've been tracking it for years. It's a built-in mechanism to protect the panel long-term from burn-in. So he's referring to Sony TVs slowly dimming over time, that entire brightness over different windows. The bad part is the gamma EOTF darkens as well and needs recalibration. Sony is just keeping you guys in business, my friend. And Jared wants me to know, or asking, if FOMO, would you be interested in reviewing a 100-inch U75 QG to compare? Let me know, as I believe I am local to you. I am enjoying it very much. My friend, is that an ADS Pro panel? That is going to be a unique experience. Let me know how your off angle is, for sure. And yeah, you know, right, I've been so busy. If you guys don't know, I'm doing additional content that's not on this channel. I'm doing some food prep, health content right now. I haven't posted it yet. I'm still practicing, and so I have so little spare time. Like, it's all I can do just to jump on here to hang out with you guys. Okay, LG, let's talk about, is this a hit or a miss? Man, context is, it comes back to bite you. We'll start with the G5 primary RGB OLED. What makes it a hit? It is definitely brighter than the G4. It is definitely raising the benchmark of brightness for all OLED TVs. I've never seen such impactful HDR, right? It gets the movie Alpha closer to my reference monitor than any other TV, including some of the mini LEDs I've reviewed. Now the QM9K is next, so I'm going to review the QM9K against the Bravia 9 against the G5 to see if finally we got this, what is it, 6,000 nit TV that's supposed to just raise our hairs when we see the HDR. So the G5, that high end, right, the brightness, it's there, and it looks good, and the color saturation is there, better than the G4. I see it. The problem is everything else, right? Everything below 5 nits is not as well processed. Shadow details too dark, inconsistent, right? You got banding, you got these issues that really were on the G3. I hear that Dolby Vision's better. Same reason that it was better on the G3. On the G5, it's better. And then we have this pattern where you wait for the even years of LG to buy. So meaning G4, G6 are better than the 3 and the 5, like almost noticeably and significantly so. And given that all content that we're seeing is so dim anyway, short of Jennifer Gala's, which is what I use to test and push these TVs, the reality is what you're going to notice with the G5 over the G4, above maybe 1,000 nits, you're going to see better color saturation, or above 400 nits, or above 600 nits. But if everything is 300 nits or less, which is everything, like everything is below 300 nits, it may not make a difference. And so on the one hand, the G5 for me was a hit when I saw it on bright 4,000 nit, 2,000 nit, 10,000 nit content, but then it ends up being a miss overall because where its flaws are, you guys will notice it more because that's in content you actually watch, unfortunately. So G5, it needs help. And now I know it's getting firmware updates, but then we're getting complaints. Well, all the brightness that Firmware loves, they've pulled that back a little bit. So I'm like, oh, now what made it a hit? It's making it a miss, which leaves the B5 and the C5 as the hits. So you're getting what you need to get from improved WOLED without the premium. And to me, save the money you would have bought a G5 and get yourself a 2 size up B5. So an 83-inch B5 is very similar in price to an LG G5 65-inch. Come on. I think that will end up delivering both the impact and the immersion given what we watch. Now, definitely a miss is LG's QNED TVs. Like you heard how great it was at CES. You're hearing a lot about it during their press releases and then nothing. No mention of the QNEDs by any reviewers. They're not sending anything out. You can't even see it on any floor in terms of Best Buy or whatnot. And this was supposed to be their best QNED yet. They took away quantum dots. It's supposed to have something better. Nothing, not a peep. And overall, I think LG is definitely in a precarious position. These are red flags I see. When Brian and I reach out to LG separately, right? We each reach out to our own different contacts to try and get review models or just responses about maybe some of the issues we see or whatnot. Very slow in getting back to us, and definitely no review models. And when they don't have review models available, it tells me that these guys are really short on cash. Their inventory is so low for review models. I mean, TCL and Hisense have review models up the wazoo. Every model, sending out to everyone, right? LG's got nothing. They don't even have a cheap B5 to send because I so wanted to review the B5 for you guys, and they didn't have it. I had to go out and get it myself. So yeah, I think LG, I mean, I've told a lot of you off air what I think of LG's future is if people continue to buy large mini LEDs and all they have is OLED and it's priced the same as a 98-inch or an 85-inch mini LED, they're doomed. They need to drop their OLED prices. And this is why too. On display, you really cannot tell the difference between an OLED and a mini LED straight on. Now, off angle, I get the benefits. Most people, they're just watching straight on, and salesperson wants to make the sale. Everything is in vivid mode. Okay, done. Give me the 98-inch, same price. Out the door. More importantly, the Hisense audio. Hey, let's turn up the audio. Oh my God, it's like this boom. Whereas the LG OLED, it's only so loud you're going to get. So yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. Oh, we got a few super chats. Let's hit those. Hey, buddy, thank you for coming by. Welcome back from Hawaii. Yes, oh, that trip to Hawaii. It wasn't just Hawaii. I was in Hawaii, come back, and I got to fly to New York for the Samsung RGB, micro RGB thing. And then I had to fly to Detroit, help my son move to college, and then I had to fly to Las Vegas. I had this Bruno Mars concert thing. And then in between, I got a flu vaccination, and they gave me the double dose because I guess this year the flu's bad. And I got the flu, all the flu-like symptoms. I was out for a week. I was miserable. So that's why you didn't see any content from me. And then suddenly, boom, all this content pops out. So I am so glad to be back. Thank you so much. Is the Bravia 8 Mark II really a miss due to the Dolby Vision diabolical disaster? Okay, so I don't think Dolby Vision is that bad. Normally I watch Dolby Vision bright on the Sony anyway, but let's say it's not as great as it could be. The answer is yes and no. So the problem with Dolby Vision on the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II, and any Sony TV that, for that matter, if you don't like their Dolby Vision implementation, if you watch the internal apps, you can't avoid it, right? you're stuck with Dolby Vision. If the content is in Dolby Vision, the Sony forces you to watch Dolby Vision. You cannot disable it. So for anyone with a Sony, I highly recommend using an external streamer, whether it's Apple TV, Fire TV, Roku Stick, Chromecast, which is what I use. I also have an Apple TV. Use that, then you could disable Dolby Vision and watch it in native HDR10, which is absolutely fine. And then you don't have to deal with Sony's approach to Dolby Vision, right? Sometimes a firmware update makes it better, sometimes it makes it worse, some people don't like it. We're not even going to talk about it. But the reality is Sony is stuck with Dolby Vision in the apps, just like LG. Any TV that supports Dolby Vision, if you watch the internal app, you cannot disable it. And if they don't get it right, you're kind of stuck with that version. So that's the one thing I don't like about Dolby Vision on the internal apps. You just cannot disable it. And let's jump on to Lax. Thanks for that super chat, buddy. Okay, regarding G3 HDR10 handling, the same content pattern looks completely fine on the LG A1. Boy, you got a classic. And the B3, the difference is not subtle. Wondering if I got a dud. I don't think you did. I hate to say it. I think that the G3's banding issue is real. Now, yeah, I don't know. I don't think you got a dud. I think that's an issue. Now, it could, I'm trying to think, make sure you look at your settings because some settings make it worse. So look at your noise reduction and smoothing, play with that. But at the end of the day, this is the biggest complaint of the G3. Now, I know Classy is here. You might want to ask him if there's a setting for the G3 that will help mitigate the problem or watch only Dolby Vision content. That'll help you out. All right, let's see what other comments you got. And is Panasonic going to launch the Z90B in the US? Nothing about TVs on the US website. Giving up already? If they don't mention it, it's not launching. Yeah, I hate to say that. Hate to say that. Whoa, whoa. Okay, I'm going to have to pause on this one. This is wonderful. So Modern Wise, if you don't know, he has a YouTube channel, you know. He doesn't review TVs like he used to, but Amazon personally called my cell phone when they heard I didn't like the Z95B. Wow. Now, if this was a Nigerian prince calling your cell phone, but Amazon, I'm impressed. I am impressed, Modern Wise. And what happened when you told them? Did they offer you another one, a replacement? That's very cool. Very, very cool. All right, next up is, let's see here, Samsung. But before we get there, just a quick shout out to our friends at Ruipro, who is a sponsor of this live stream. Thank you, Ruipro. I do use Ruipro optical cables. When your cables need to be longer than 9 feet, that means you gotta go a bit longer. Copper gets unwieldy, it gets heavy, and it jacks up your HDMI input, so you gotta go optical. What do I use? I use Ruipro, and I've been using it since 2019, and I use it for all my reviews. I connect everything with it. It's great. I'll link it below if you guys are interested in getting an optical cable from Ruipro. Thank you to our sponsor. All right, next up, Samsung. So, these are my hits for Samsung. Notice there's no other model here from Samsung. The Samsung S90F is so impressive. It does everything that you guys need. Like the S90F, it doesn't have the One Connect box. I don't think that's a plus. I think adding a One Connect box adds an additional point of failure, and many of you don't need that for design purposes. If you need it, you know it, you get it, but most of you don't need it. And the performance of the S90F, to me, is identical, if not near indistinguishable from the last year's S95D. So you got a flagship performer the following year without the matte anti-glare. So you have a great choice in the S95F and the S90F and the S95D. If you want the S95F with the anti-glare, get the S95D, or vice versa. If you want slightly brighter, then you have the S95F. And that slight brightness, again, you're only going to see in sports and SDR where you kind of raise the brightness and you add active. So active tone mapping is the TV attempting to make everything a little bit brighter. It hits harder in the S95F, but when we're talking accuracy for what you guys watch, S90F looks identical, the same as the G5, the Bravia 8 Mark II, and the S95F and it doesn't have the banding issues of LG or Panasonic, which is generally speaking WOLED, RGB primary OLED. It doesn't have those banding issues, and it apparently doesn't have the banding issues the Bravia 8 Mark II has either, but it has the same color saturation, and more importantly, out of the box, I think it's more accurate than the Sony. The Sony definitely needs calibration out of the box. It desaturates the green, so it feels like it's pushing magenta. 90F, 95F, huge wins for me this year. 95F is a little bit expensive, but image quality is a win. Overall, everything is a win. I know you're saying, wait, but they removed HGIG. Okay, so for gamers, this is a temporary setback. We've all been promised, and yes, I'm in contact with Samsung. They're working on it. They will restore HGIG at some point. I don't know when, but they're on it. But ultimately, for gamers, maybe not as big of a win. But for everyone else, this is such a good TV. And then that takes me to the other win. So the QNED, I mean, overall, the smaller sizes, I think, is a slight step back because it doesn't really up the game from prior years, but it's more expensive. But the 98-inch size changes all of that. Now, unfortunately, it's very expensive. It's 15 grand. So I'm hoping this level of performance with the anti-glare at that size drops to below 6,000 next year. I think they need to do this for all their large TVs. In reviewing the 98-inch, which I have still in the living room, Samsung, can we have it back? No, I'm not done yet. I've been sick. I've been traveling. Give me another 2 weeks. It changes everything because I don't see any other reflections on the windows that I saw with my other 85, 90-inch TVs. When I put it there, like the TCL 85-inch QM 8K, you really see that glare in the darker, slightly darker images. Don't see it with the QNED. So I'm beginning to appreciate that in a normal living room setting where you have windows everywhere. All right, let's see what you guys got here. Jump to your questions. Well, here's interesting. Tyler, I just upgraded my TV to the LG Z3, which is the 8K TV. Should I buy PS5 Pro or will the base PS5 take advantage of my TV? Is it worth the extra $200? It is not. Everyone will tell you, just get the base PS5. I have both. I have the PS5 Pro, I have the PS5. And honestly, you're not going to notice a huge difference. Unless you're getting some amazing bundled deals and the difference is like 30 bucks or whatever, right? Yeah, it's worth 30 bucks, but it's not worth the premium of PS5 Pro. I have both just so I could see what the PS5 Pro brings to the table. Not much more. So get the PS5. It's not worth the extra 200 bucks. 50, okay, but not 200. And the Z3 is a great TV, by the way. But yeah, you don't need the PS5 Pro to take advantage of anything. It can't even take advantage of your C3, so forget the Z3. All right. Waiting for the RGB Bravia 7 Mark II in a 55-inch over the Bravia 8 Mark II in a 55-inch. Well, you're going to be waiting. Well, you know what? It might come to 55. I think 65 is realistic. 55, I'm wondering if it will sell at 55. But don't be disappointed if it doesn't come to 55. But 65, you're going to get both sides and a little bit of pop. So we'll see. Like, guesses. Will the Bravia 7 Mark II RGB miniLED come in a 55-inch? I have my doubts. And Caleb is back in the shack. Yes, he is. I'm so happy for him. He's been showing up to all of our events, but he's like, oh, I don't know if I can share this yet, right? He says, he takes a lot of videos and stuff. And yes, he's back, so it's always good to have him in the community. It's such a small community, so it's great to have his voice back on. All right. Let's see what we got here. And if I missed your questions, just keep on asking it. I'm going solo today, so I don't have Brian catching any missed super chats or missed questions. Next up, TCL. And these guys, I think, did really well this year. Like, they deserve an applause. Yes. Yeah, I know. I've been waiting to use that. Yeah, I forgot. Wait, I got special effects. I need to use it. Okay, so let's go from the cheapest, least expensive QM6K to the top. The QM6K, for me, is a huge win for TCL. They found the sweet spot of image quality, just enough HDR for most people who are coming from older TV, and size. It goes up to 98 inch, and the 98 inch is matte anti-glare. Not if you buy at Costco. The Costco version is called the QM6K Pro, which lacks the anti-glare, so keep that in mind. If you want anti-glare, you're going to get it at Best Buy or another retailer. That's not Costco. But the QM6K, not Pro. Pro doesn't have the anti-glare matte screen. I guess professionals wear anti-glare glasses or something. QM6K, huge win for TCL. QM7K is slightly brighter. You have better HDR impact, but I like the QM8K. You know what? The QM8K is a bit more expensive though. The QM8K is slightly better, and the QM7K is slightly brighter. But then I'm thinking you should go from a QM6K to a QM9K. In between, get the Hisense U75QG. So you got a QM6K, Hisense U75QG, a little bit more expensive, and I think that's better than QM7K personally. But then instead of paying more for the QM8K, if you want to go there, go for the QM9K, which I will have side by side next to Bravia 9 and the G5. These would be the three, I think, best HDR impact TVs to date, right? Right now, the Bravia 9 is still top dog among all mini-LED TVs. I'm hoping the QM9K can unseat it as my favorite mini-LED TV cost no object. I mean, it's priced about the same as the Bravia 9. MSRP right now, it's more expensive than the Bravia 9, but by Black Friday, it should be similar, if not just $100 or $2 less. But this is TCL saying, look, we're going to flex. We could do what Sony does if you're willing to pay the big bucks, or do more than what Sony does if you're willing to pay the big bucks. And oh, modern-wise going big. I'm going to sell my 85-inch QM8 and go for the 98-inch QM7. Yes. I'm pretty excited for you, buddy. I think that size difference is huge. And this is something that I know I've mentioned before, but I'll address. We are talking TCL, and I did not include the X11K. Everyone only talks about the QM8K or the QMK series, but the X11K is supposed to have super micro OD. And yes, it does. So the super micro OD technically is also on the QM8K, QM9K, and QM7K. So what X11K does not have is the better extra wide angle viewing, and that could be a problem. X11K spec on spec hardware is behind the QM8K and the QM9K. And if you notice, TCL is not even promoting it. Like, okay, it's out there. Like when reviewers ask about it, they're like, just forget about it. It's like, it's a pass. I honestly believe the X11K was a 2024 model. They didn't get it out in time, but they still had a lot of inventory, so they made it a 2025 model because it's clearly a great 2024 model. But given the updates on the 8K and the 9K QM series, the X11K is lacking a few things that make it flagship, and so it just doesn't have a place. And I know the gaming features on the 6K or on the 7K, 8K, and 9K outrageously good for a mini LED TV. TCL won't even talk about gaming on the X11K. Like, no, this is a cinema home theater TV. We don't look at it as a gaming TV. I'm like, wait a minute, really? But the 8K and the 9K is both. Yeah, well, you talk about that on your video. I'm like, all right, so I'm talking about it now. Ignore the X11K. I don't want you to be disappointed. And I know you're saying X11K has more dimming zones. I think we have enough dimming zones. It's no longer, quote unquote, better dimming zones. It's the algorithm, it's the software. We are to the point where the dimming zone war is also done, right? You saw how I did a video that the brightness wars are done. Well, the dimming zone wars are done unless you're going to have quadruple the dimming zones of what we have today. Adding a few hundred more dimming zones doesn't move the needle at all. Now, RGB LED might, because it helps makes the halo effect a bit more natural and it's less noticeable, but I think we're good with where dimming zones are. TCL and Hisense need to focus on their software processing. Sony has improved its image over them because of software, not because of dimming zones. And so if TCL and Hisense can do that, that would change the game for them. Like, well, it's already changed the game for them, but it will change it further without spending money on the hardware. They need to just spend money on the software in terms of that dimming zone control. And how much is the 98-inch QM9K? I don't know if it comes in a 98-inch. I think it stops at 85 inches, I think. But it would be quite a bit if it did. All right. And what about the Panasonic W95B? Is that this year's model? I don't know. I don't know. They're not pushing that out to reviewers to talk about it. So it feels like their mini-LED TVs, they're really not, they're kind of mailing that in as well. Now, I know you've been waiting to talk about this. This is something that I've been waiting to talk about for sure, and I think this is great. You guys will love this. Yay! Dolby Vision 2. And we're going to set the tone. We're going to set the tone here with this comment. And I love you guys. This comment in my video is so good. I had to share this comment. So good. The create a problem, then sell a solution is so obvious, it's not funny. And so what's the problem? HDR movies are too dim. What's the solution? Dolby Vision 2. The irony is HDR movies were too bright. My TV can't show brightness very well. Dolby Vision solved that and made bright movies dimmer. Now that movies are too dim for bright TVs, they're going to make dim movies brighter with Dolby Vision 2. Oh, you people in this industry just crack me up. Yes, Jack Mills, what a great way to put it. I wish I thought of that and put it in my video. And if you haven't caught the video, that's what it is, Dolby Vision 2, where I explain everything about it. But ultimately, it's addressing my complaint in my last few videos, which is, well, what's with these HDR movies? They're too dim. And too dim meaning the whole scene is fine, right? The scene isn't dim. The specular highlights are too dim. It's like when you see a flash, gun muzzle flash, whatever it is, the whole scene is like 30 nits, the muzzle flash is 100 nits. I mean, it's brighter, right? It's going from 30 to 100 nits, but I got HDR to go from 30 to 2000 nits. And so the hope is that Dolby Vision 2 does that. It sees your TV capable of 5000 nits, right? The QM9K, 6000 nits. And Dolby Vision 2 is like, okay, let's make a match. The TV is capable of 5000 nits, and this film tops out at 100 nits. Superman, I'm looking at you. And we have all the data of the different parts of the scene. And in this part of the scene, it's just tiny, but it should be brighter. It's the brightest part of the scene. It's the rest of the scene is like maybe 10, 20 nits, and this part of the scene is 100 nits. The TV is capable of 5000. Let's hit max and see what happens, right? And then maybe you could adjust the aggressiveness of that. Okay, you don't want 5000, maybe 1000, but definitely better than 100. And that's critical. And so that's why I like Dolby Vision 2. I think that does change the game, but ironically, as the commenter said, we created a problem and now we have to buy the solution by upgrading our TVs. And so that takes us to the comment earlier, which was Dartman. Here we go. They need to release Dolby Vision 2 converter box. I can't afford to buy another TV. And so we have some good news, Dartman, which is, first of all, even if all the TVs came out next year with Dolby Vision 2, the content has not been converted to Dolby Vision 2. I suspect it'll take a few years. My guess, maybe 3 years before like real content, meaning Netflix is on board, Prime Video is on board. So maybe Prime Video and Netflix, it's easy. Maybe it's 2 years from now. But I suspect at least 2 years, definitely not 2026. But even then, let's say Dartman just bought a brand new TV in 2025. Well, he's not going to buy a new TV 2 years from now, even 3 years from now. But it's okay. Hold off, wait until everyone catches up, and then maybe 5 years, 6 years from now when your TV dies. I know it shouldn't die, but after your extended warranty is over, on the 6th year, that's the time to look at Dolby Vision 2. But I love the converter box idea. And it wouldn't surprise me if if there is, for the TVs, but don't buy the converter box, excuse me, until content has actually been confirmed. I think that's the big problem here. And we have a super chat from Buddy. Thank you, thank you. FOMO, I will stop buying new TVs when Google AI is installed, so that AI will pretend to be a new TV. Dolby Vision 2 is going to open the door for it. Yeah, I think so. I think, okay, first of all, so Google AI, Gemini AI, on a lot of the Google TVs, it's going to be a thing in 2026. I see it already. Already, I think Samsung has implemented AI, huge AI advances in their TV. I need to test everything. I know that Copilot will be on LG. So everyone has an AI angle. It's always about implementation, right? The word AI means nothing without an effective functionality that actually helps your experience. I agree. And as far as buying new TVs, yeah, this is what we do. We love getting a new TV, at least one. I try to get one keeper, but I end up getting two. This year it's the G5. I still have the Bravia 9 and the Bravia 8 Mark II, but I think I'm going to have to get rid of the G5 as soon as a next generation QD-OLED comes along. Sorry, LG. Jared Coleman, when you do your review of the U75QG versus QM9K versus Bravia 9, can you showcase anime as a comparison for color, contrast fidelity, and gaming 165 Hz? Okay, I can tell you right now, Hisense gaming falls short of TCL's gaming this year's 2025 TVs overall, right? I mean, you could pick and choose here and there, but overall TCL's QM7K, 8K, 9K is going to have a snappier, just better overall gaming in terms of different resolutions and speeds and all that, VRR, not VR, versus Hisense. Now, movie watching, different. And secondly, I don't have a U75QG anymore, so I can't compare the U75QG for you. I will compare the QM8K, QM9K, and the Bravia 9 and the G5, right? How does it compare? And 165 Hz, I only have a PS5 Pro and an Xbox, neither of which do 165. I'm happy if I could do 120 legit, but the reality is you're going to have to get a PC gamer that can do 165 or something close to that to check that out. Sorry, Jared, I'm not a PC gamer, so can't do that. And we'll be taking your questions. I think that's it for my topics of the day. Yeah, let's talk about your hits and misses, questions, anything. We'll go questions for another 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. All right, Kivan Kli. FOMO, what is the built-in Dolby Atmos sound system on the Z95B compared to something like a Sonos Beam Gen 2 or more like a Sonos Arc? So the Z95B, I love how it pushes out immersion that's above and to the side. So if you have a small room, it does a great job of DSP reflection off the walls. Excellent job. Now, I haven't compared it side by side, blind test, close my eyes, right, one after the other, to the Sonos Beam or the Sonos Arc, but I'll tell you this. You add a subwoofer to either one, and it will be better than Z95B. The Z95B is meant to be the best TV audio, but it cannot compete with either Sonos soundbars matched with a subwoofer. I suggest getting the soundbar with a subwoofer if you want that extra oomph. John Wick, those gunshots, right? It really hits you in the chest. That's what the sub is for. And with the Sonos Arc, I think you have multiple subs, so you have that option. But the Z95B is a great way of just getting good audio and then save up. And then once you have the money, you get the Arc plus 2 subs stacked right next to you, then you're going to hit it. But yeah, the Z95B is not going to compete on the low end. Any soundbar with a subwoofer will beat it easily. And as far as immersion, neither soundbar nor TV is going to have a great immersive experience. You're looking at volume and vocals generally. All right. All right, Dias, here we go. Fourth try, found you. 98-inch Hisense UX 2024, 90-inch QM8K. Go with a 98-inch QM8K. That QM8K is an excellent TV. I had the 85, I loved it. You'll love the 98. The Hisense UX 2024. I'm trying to think. I felt Hisense's processor in 2024 was not as good as this year. There were issues, near black, shadow detail, and the color was not consistent. In some models, it was more accurate than other models, whereas TCL this year, the QM8K, it's been consistent in terms of color accuracy. It's better. Yeah, the red is a touch oversaturated still, but definitely improved. And yeah, I'd say go with the 98-inch QM8K. Let me know how you enjoy it. Black Friday. TCL does very well with Black Friday. Okay. FOMO, I heard Bravia now has an even better sound system than Z95B. So I have both. I had the Z95B. Now it's no longer the studio, but I compared it, Bravia 9, Z95B. So the Z95B creates a more immersive effect. It does a better job with immersive effect. It goes a little bit lower, but when it comes to vocals and clarity, they're about the same. So the Z95B just has more of a cinema feel if you want that. The Bravia 9 is good. The Z95B is more immersive if you enable that immersive effect. And for many people, that's a game changer. But at worst, they're so similar that, you know, just buy the TV where you like the image quality because their sound is not so far apart that you would choose one over the other. But the Z95B does have more of a wide immersive effect if that's important to you. And I agree with Matt and Bev. Sony, just give us what we want. A Sony Bravia 9 at 115-inch and be done with it. You'll probably get it at a Bravia 9 Mark II for $15,000, maybe 20, right? No, probably 20 at 115. Yeah, I think we're going to see a 115-inch from Sony at CES, or just after CES. And Jesse asks me, hey, what do you think about the new Magnetar universal disc players that were announced at CDM? So, my position on all these disc players is this. The premium ones, right? So you want to pay $2,000, $3,000. One, keyword, universal. You're not just playing Blu-ray. You're looking at region, not region specific, right? Open region, right? You can play any disc from any region because you got the special code. Okay, that's one reason. Second, you're looking at the DACs, right? The digital audio converter for audio. You're looking for the highest quality audio coming out of your disc player, or you're using the disc player as a CD transport, whatever. It doubles as a high quality audio system. If that's the case, hey, I get it. Those things cost a bundle more than $2,000 or $3,000. But, and I get this question all the time, the video quality is exactly the same as an X700 from Sony. That's $200. If you're just looking at the video, it's not any different. And yeah, I mean, that's, to me, that's how I look at it. Don't get the Magnetar if you're just playing a Blu-ray disc. Now, if you have issues with Blu-rays cutting out because the Sony or the Panasonic can't handle the large disc, the high density Blu-ray disc, for whatever reason, I know there are complaints. I don't know if Magnetar can handle it either, right? So you're gonna have to test it and let me know. But that really is the only reason, is maybe your cheaper players can't handle the higher density discs or whatever. But as far as the actual image quality, it's the same. I have yet to see any difference in the image quality. It's playing the same disc. Audio, arguably, more options. Yeah, I'm with you, Dartman. X800 Mark II, great. I'm a fan of the Sony affordable $200 displays, especially Black Friday, $199 all day long. All right, let's see here. This is a great question. And I see you, Matt, and we're going to jump into your super chat next. Sony Theater Quad. Oh, I love that one. I have that one. I had the original HDMI as well, or a full AVR setup. I have that as well. I have a full Trinnov, like 15 speaker setup all around me in the studio with giant subwoofers. Quad 80 to 90% of a full setup. So you have to ask yourself, what are you looking for? If you're looking for the best upmixing of crappy Atmos mixes, right? Like people are complaining that the F1 mix is not, there's no Atmos at all, right? The Trinovs of the world, and it's not limited to Trinov, but I'll just use Trinov because what I have. Trinov and similarly expensive processors and AVRs, right? They're upmixing of Auro 3D or Atmos Virtual, whatever it is, or their own proprietary, will take that sucky Atmos mix and make it immersive. That's what you're paying for, is that part of it. And having all these discrete speakers make it realistic. And you could tune the speakers to make it even louder on top. Okay, if you're into that, you got to go with a full AVR setup and have discrete ceiling speakers. Now, if you're not into that, and you don't care about that, and you're not willing to pay the extra bucks because that takes a lot of time to set up, the Theater Quad does get you 80% of the time there. And so to compare, how often do I use my super expensive Trinov system with all Genelec speakers? Everything is discrete. I even have the voice of God. Zero. 0 days in 2025. I use the quad because I'm just so lazy and the effects are so good. And the only thing missing really is not the overhead effects, it is actually the subwoofer. As much as I love the quads, I am missing deep, low bass. But you know, after a while, to me, it gets kind of old. I know many of you will argue, oh, bass never gets old. Bass heads, I get it. But for me, it's not just worth the trouble of plugging everything in to get giant subs to just shake the house. But if you are a bass head, the Sony subwoofer that you can get with the quad is just not good enough. It doesn't matter if you get SW5, you can get 6 of those and it's still not good enough. So the Theater Quad are amazing. Don't get any subwoofer. I think they're amazing as is, but if you need real deep bass and Sony's SW5 doesn't do it for you, go with a full AVR setup, but focus on spending more on the subs. I think that will give you more of an impact. But if you really want discrete Atmos overhead, you want to get an AVR that you can make sure you tune and get a good upmix going. Auro upmixer is probably the best one out there still, or the proprietary, the ones they have out now. So, but I think 95% of you, the quad is fine, Sony quad. The other 5%, hey, we all have our passions and hobbies, right? No soundbar is going to replace dual 21-inch subs. And I agree with John. I love Samsung's Q990F for the money. And so by Black Friday, this thing is going to be like $1,500 or less. I mean, we've seen the 990 series drop to $999. It's a really good one. And the subwoofer is definitely better than the SW5. The SW5 subwoofer was never great to begin with, but this 990F sub is the bomb. So it just depends on what you want. I don't like soundbars personally. I don't like that little layer in front. I like the quad because I don't have that soundbar. The 990F is still a soundbar. If you don't mind the soundbar, I get the 990F. If you, like me, don't like the soundbar and rather just put stuff around you, then I would get the quad because the sound is very close. All right. TV with the best anti-glare outside of Samsung A95L, you mean the Samsung S95F? It would be, the only one offered right now is the TCL QM6K at the larger sizes, I think 85 and 98 inch, and Samsung's S95D, S95F, S95D, and this year's QN90F. They all have the anti-glare, but yeah. And the new micro RGB has the anti-glare, if you're looking at other models besides last year's S95D. All right. Okay. Naughty and nice. Oh, wait. Oh, we have a super chat. Matt M. All right, you're next. I scrolled up so quickly I missed it. I have my soundbar designed in my stand. I have to say this is so funny. And now they come up with up-firing speakers. And so you have the TV and you have a soundbar and this blasting sound. into your TV. You're like, oh, I lost the additional drivers I paid for. Yeah, I'm sorry, man, that's too funny. Okay, Matt M, thank you for the super chat. In a future where mini LED gets one LED per pixel, so you're looking, basically, this is like a, was it the dual cell LCD TVs, right? Where the backlight matches the number of LCD pixels. OLED will still be superior. Why? Pixel response time. Never seen an LCD panel that can transition as well in dark scenes without trails and ghosting. Thoughts? Yeah, yeah. Pixel response time. I see that, and especially for gaming. I think I don't. It depends on the scene, obviously. I'm trying to think. So it depends on your backlight technology, and this is why I'm very curious to see how RGB LED does this. Quantum dot backlight. They have solved trailing and ghosting very well. The red specifically has a longer decay time, and quantum dot shortens that decay time to match with all the other light waves, right? Light frequencies. And so there's no trailing and ghosting with a quantum dot backlight. TVs that don't have enough quantum dot in their backlight, you're going to see obvious red ghosting. So RGB LED, technically you cannot use quantum dots because you have individual RGBs. So the quantum dot layer is gone from the backlight. Does that reintroduce ghosting? We'll have to test that next year. Now, so my thoughts are, with a good quantum dot based backlight from Samsung, TCL, Sony, those guys, I've never had issues with that, but I've seen issues with that with the early Hisense TVs, which was notorious for red ghosting, right? So we'll have to see. I'll have to play The Crown again. That's the only time I play The Crown, is to watch that red ghosting in that scene everyone uses. But gaming is different. Gaming is even more difficult. But I agree with the pixel response time. If you're a gamer and you need that pixel response time, that's why OLED is the ultimate TV. However, if you need 100 inches of screen size on a TV, you're either, I guess, laser, some kind of a laser RGB type thing. A laser TV, ultra short throw would do the trick, right? It's also $4,000 or $5,000. That'll have great response time, pixel response time. Or OLED, but gaming, well, I think among the TVs, and this is why I mentioned TCL. TCL and Samsung appear to have the best among gaming LCD TVs to have the best pixel response time without the trailing and the ghosting. But every year this changes depending on how they work their backlights. So we'll see. We will see. D, thank you for that super chat. Hey FOMO, I just want to thank you for helping me purchase a TV earlier this year. Congratulations, you made a decision. You stopped the FOMO. I ended up going with a 77-inch A95L. Excellent decision. My question for you, what would you like to see in an 83 OLED in the next 2 years? I would like to see an 83-inch quantum dot OLED. That's it. I think we've reached peak performance on WOLED technology. We saw it this year. Panasonic, with all of its software expertise, could only do so much to fix WOLED, RGB primary tandem OLED. Yes, they did it better than LG, but the limitations of WOLED was still apparent compared to Samsung's implementation of QD-OLED, and this is the difference between QD-OLED and WOLED. So 83-inch OLED needs to be QD-OLED to resolve some of the banding issues, and, well, really, it's the HDR banding issues that is just native to WOLED. Primary RGB did not fix it. MLA did not fix it. That's what I'd like to see in the next 2 years. Good question. Thank you, D. Max Overdrive. Hey, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for coming by, my friend. I saw the 98-inch QM6K in a store and the QM7K 65-inch. I saw the impact of the immersion immediately. Wow, from 65 to 98. Yes, better picture overall. Detail and color on the QM7. Yes, we know that. But at 98 inches, wow. Both set to standard mode. Nice store in PH, Phoenix, Philadelphia. And this is what we always talk about. Pixel per pixel, OLED is always better, right? 55-inch, 65-inch. But you take that TV to 98 inches or 110 inches or what have you, And that immersion makes up the difference. It makes up for the slight loss in contrast. It makes up for the HDR, specular. It makes up for all of that because that immersion. I mean, when you go to the movie theater, guess what? You're watching a giant screen at 50 nits if you're lucky. If you're at a Dolby Cinema laser system, then it's 100 nits. That's it. But it's so huge that you're like, whoa, and you don't realize it's less than 100 nits, right? So, and I brought home a couple of ultra short throw projectors to review, and the family loves it. They don't want me to bring back the 65-inch OLED. So, you know, the A95K goes in the bedroom because they want that just giant immersive experience. And this is on a wall. I was too lazy to bring home a screen. I was just reviewing on a white wall. They preferred that to having a 65-inch TV that they could sit closer, but they didn't want it. They wanted to dim the lights and just boom, projection on a white wall. And so after that, I'm like, yeah, it's over. Less expensive LCD TVs at 98-inch or larger. That's the future because it is very impactful. All right. Baker asks, what do I think of the LG B5 OLED? It's a buy. Get it. Larger size. So with the LG B5, you're saving a lot of money by not getting the C5 or the G5, but you're getting a larger OLED. So don't get the same size, right? With that money you save, I know you want to put it in your pocket. If you're going to spend it anyway, upgrade the size and spend the same amount of money. So if you're going to spend $2,500 or $2,600 on a G5 65-inch, Black Friday, see if that can stretch to an 83-inch B5. That would be the way to go. Then you'd be like, oh, 83 inches. Now this is an upgrade. Trust me on that. Right. And Nadia Nice asks, why doesn't Sony go bigger with OLED? Why doesn't Sony go bigger with OLEDs? So this is an off year for them. They did go bigger last year. They had the 77-inch A95L QD-OLED, but 83-inch is WOLED, and they have that, right? They had the A80J that comes in 83-inch, so that's coming back as an 83-inch. So they have bigger OLEDs. But QD-OLED, they're limited to what's available. Samsung does not make an 83-inch, or Samsung Display does not sell to anyone. Doesn't sell to Sony, doesn't sell to Samsung. There is no 83-inch QD-OLED size available. It stops at 77. And Sony has that, the A95L. And LG has a 93-inch OLED, but only LG sells the 93-inch OLED. So, yeah. Kind of limited. Was it 97? 97-inch, right? LG's 93. I think LG 97-inch OLED, but that's only for LG. But that's like over $20,000. So Sony's not. I don't think Sony thinks there's a market if they acquired that 97-inch OLED and started selling it. So, and they do sell nice projectors. I think they're going to go there. All right. Let's see. I think. Yes, 97-inch OLED. Yeah, only LG sells that. Thank you. Okay, let me check any more super chats I may have missed, and then I think we'll check out. Okay, hey, thank you everyone for joining me. Time for dinner. Please for coming by or something. And hit or miss. What is your hit or miss? Let me know in the comments below, and maybe next time Brian's internet will be on and we'll have him on. Until next time, my friends, thank you for coming by. And let's have a good 2025 rest of the year. And we'll have some specials. And the QM9K review is coming up next. Until next time, stop the FOMO.